Welcome to our recording of our Reading for Pleasure Parents Workshop. At Pensmeadow School, we firmly believe that all children, regardless of their development levels, should be entitled to having that pleasurable experience of sharing books with people that they love and people who care for them. Throughout your life, there are probably books that you will remember. There may be books where you've read a story and it's really stuck with you and it was one of your favourite books, or it might be a non-fiction book and it might be a favourite recipe that you've tried. Lots of us read for lots of different reasons. It may be through comics, it may be ebooks, it may be listening to audiobooks. But there are lots of different ways of finding pleasure through books. And the stories that are passed down from generation to generation help build the culture for the world in which we live now. At Pensmeadow, we have invested in all our reading areas. We've had new books in both our libraries. We've updated the environments to make them comfortable and welcoming for the children, to encourage them to come and share books throughout the school day. We have put reading books or reading corners in every classroom with comfortable seating so that the children feel that they can come and choose a book whenever they wish, and they can share that with a key adult or on their own and get that pleasure from reading. At Ridge Hill, we've introduced an author of the month. So every month it is a different author and there are a collection of books written by that author. The children choose each week which book they wish to share in their classroom, and over the month they choose which ones they like best and listen to the stories again and again, getting pleasure from the repetitiveness of hearing a story that they are beginning to learn and know really well. These are the books that are from the authors that we are currently following this year. And these are the books that middle and upper at Ridge Hill are following at the moment. So that's yellow and red and blue class. We'll be looking at these authors. At Post 14, we no longer have an author of the month, but the students have opportunities to recommend books to each other. Staff recommend books, and these are either recommended through assemblies or they are put on the wall so that different students who can see them may think, oh, that's a good book, I'd like to have a look at that one. And that's how we keep our recommendations and ethos going with our older students. There is lots of research that talks about the importance of visiting libraries and the impact that that has on children's interest in reading and their love of wanting to look at books. So at Pensmeadow, we are committed that every term, every class will visit the library, and wherever possible, most classes go every half term. Once a year, classes invite parents to go on this visit with their young people so that they can share that quality experience with them. Experts are firmly aware of the impact of sharing stories with your child on the importance of that bond between them, having that increased self-esteem, having that lovely time to share books, and the positive impact this then has on children's ability to want to read and want to share books. Reading is fun. Reading for pleasure is reading to share that pleasurable time with your child. It is not them practicing reading. It is not them learning to decode words. This is about having that lovely, calming time with your child where you read to them, you can talk about the book, you can share different stories, you can look at the pictures. And really, it's about snuggling down, finding somewhere comfortable to read. That might be on a blanket in the garden. It might be at bedtime. It might be on the sofa. It can be anywhere that you wish. If you help them to join in, model turning the pages, guess what's coming next, then that also will bring that extra love of reading and bring those stories alive. You can bring them alive through using different voices, maybe introducing toys or different activities. Maybe you can move around the room pretending to be the giant. Don't do reading if you're both tired. If your child has had a very long day at school and they don't want to read, then this is meant to be a pleasurable time. So don't force them to read. Choose a time when you're both feeling like you've got a bit of quality time together and it's lovely to just snuggle down then. Praise your child if they join in, or if they're looking at the pictures or pointing to different things and spending that time with you. Try and make books part of your routine. Try and share them every day so that your child is hearing that rich vocabulary and seeing those beautiful pictures in books, either in their head as they imagine the story or on the page. It's really important as well that boys see that reading is something that men do. So wherever possible, if there's siblings, they've got a brother or their dad or their uncle or granddad or just a family friend, even if it's just reading instructions, it's really, really good to ensure that your young person is seeing that reading is something men do as well as women. Talk about books, talk about their favourite books. Really take that time to sit and listen with your child and respect the choices of the books that they would like to read. Introduce your child to a range of books. It might be that your child doesn't like a storybook but absolutely loves joke books or poetry. Some children really, really enjoy reading non-fiction books, finding out about planets and the world around them or dinosaurs. Some children really like looking at atlases and dictionaries and hearing about new words. Try to read slowly with expression so that they've got time to process the words and really listen to what's being said. Follow those words with your finger and look at the pictures together in the story and talk about the story and what might happen next. In your reading book bags for the children at Ridge Hill, there is a leaflet for how to help your child with reading at the level of their development. There is also an ALD board where they can point to show you whether they want to hear it again, whether they want to hear more, or whether they finish reading for today. So these resources in the bag are really, really useful. Don't forget, there's also your reading diary where you can make a note of what's been read and let your class teacher and your class team know so that we can celebrate that in school. So these are some tips to help to grow a love of reading. It doesn't matter how old your child is. I still read to my children and they are 14 and 16. Reading with your child is just a lovely thing to do. It doesn't have to just be at bedtime, it can be any time during the day. If you read the same books over and over again, children become familiar with it and they really enjoy that listening to the same language, and it really helps them develop that language. Even if your child is non-verbal, they are hearing that language, they are developing it in their minds, and that will help them with being able to do lots of different skills as they grow up. As I said, reading doesn't have to all be about fiction. It could be about non-fiction too. If you yourself are not a very confident reader, there are books on CBeebies, there are books on iPlayer, there are books, audio books. There are lots of different types of books and lots of different stories on YouTube of other people reading them. And we will start sending home books of our staff reading different stories that you can share with your child as well. So if you're not so confident on reading, maybe you could use those or ask another family member to have a go. I really don't think that your child minds if you're not a confident reader. It's about spending that quality time with them, even if you're just talking about the pictures. Read together as a family. Let them see that you read and that actually reading is a really lovely experience. Really look at a picture book. Really talk about those pictures and give the right message of reading being really positive. If there's somewhere in the story where you can see a picture of something similar to what you've done with your child, discuss your own personal experiences. Have a giggle. Have a talk about all the different things that you've done together. Make reading to your child like a treat. Really show enthusiasm and excitement when you're reading your story with your child. Make it special. Make sure they can see the book. If you're reading it so that they can't actually see the pictures and share it with you, then they're not going to be as interested. So make sure they can snuggle up next to you and they can see the pictures and the book too. Show curiosity in what you're about to read. Oh no, I think Arthur's going to get angrier now. Read the story through the first time without stopping too much. If you think the child might not understand something, then you can model an explanation. So you may say, oh, I think what's happened is that they've got stuck or they've got wet or whatever the problem is, but you can talk that through with them. But if you don't stop the story too much the first time, then you get real coherence and the story makes much more sense. And when you read it again, you can stop and discuss all the different parts. Chat about the story. Even if your child is non-verbal, they will appreciate listening to your thoughts on the story. I wonder why you did that. Oh no, I hope she's not going to. I wouldn't have done that, would you? Avoid asking questions to see what your child has remembered. Remember, this is meant to be nice, quality, special time together, not an assessment of how much of the story they can tell you. Link stories to your own experiences. So maybe if they're cooking a pancake, this reminds me of the time my mum cooked a pancake and she flicked it out of the window. Read favourite stories over and over again. And if your child can, through signing or through picking up toys or through actually verbalising it, encourage them to join in with the familiar parts. For example, run in the Gingerbread Man story. Read with enthusiasm. Don't be embarrassed to try different voices. The children love it. And read with enjoyment. If you're not enjoying it, your child won't. And if you're not enjoying it, fake it until you make it. If your child is non-verbal, there are still lots of ways to involve them in reading the story. You can run your finger along the text just as you read, and then once your child is familiar with that, ask them to do the pointing. Ask your child to turn the pages at the right time. Give them some story props so they can act out the story as it unfolds. Imitate what the story is doing. The more you read, even for short periods of time, the more your child will learn and remember words and sentences and the structure and the tone of the story, which will help them as they get older. Whilst it is sometimes difficult to sit for a conversation with your non-verbal child, if you read an illustrated book with lots of pictures, then you can be pointing to them, smiling, and using lots of the non-verbal gestures, which are really, really essential to speech. And beyond everything else, remember, it's not your job to teach your child to read. It's to encourage them to love books. Thank you.